Hey, online family, we are so glad that you could join us. Here at Decided Church, we're looking to map out textbook discipleship in our current sermon series we titled Everybody's Somebody. Let us know what you think and how we can be praying for you. Email your story to hi@decidedchurch.com. We're confident that today's message will dial in your view on discipleship and strengthen your walk with Jesus. Enjoy!
Decided Church, how are we today? Wasn't that great? I feel like that's my theme song of my life. God, you don't need me, but you want me. I love that. So, can you turn me down a little smidge? I'm feeling some ringing going on. A little lower, a little lower. I'm already loud enough. Okay, that's better. More better. Anyway, good morning, everybody. How are we today? Is everyone doing okay? Great. That's great to hear. I am so excited to preach our final message in our current sermon series, Everybody's Somebody. Has everybody loved this one? It's been pretty good, right? I've enjoyed it. I kind of wish we could stay here a little bit longer, but Easter calls, so here we are. But anyway, first off, if you're a first timer here, thank you so much for joining us. We love having you. We would love to serve you in any way that you can. So if you have any prayer requests, anything that we can do for you, please do not be hesitant to ask me, to ask Jim, our wives, anybody with a name tag on, anybody who acts like they belong here, because they probably do. We're a bunch of crazies. You're more than welcome to ask us. So if you're a first-timer, thank you so much for joining us. To give you a little glimpse as to where we are in this sermon series, the title, Everybody's Somebody, doesn't explain much, but the subtitle might help. What does biblical discipleship look like? And so Jim and I have taken on the task to kind of to refocus and to reconsider what discipleship looks like within the realm of the Christian world. I think so often we break it down into programs and things to do and checklists that we kind of lose. We kind of lose what it's meant to be, and so we've kind of tried and shift our thought process on what discipleship looks like. But in order to start off, I wanted to ask a question. Has anyone noticed how America, or I guess just people in general, tend to weaken certain words? Anybody know what I'm talking about? Like for instance, the word that everyone uses all the time that is so overused that I don't like that everyone uses is, oh, I love blank, right? Like, oh, I love pizza. You don't love pizza. If you knew what love was, you would know that you don't actually love pizza. You like pizza a lot. I don't know. My wife might actually love pizza. I don't know if y'all know that. Pepperoni, light cheese, extra pepperoni, light sauce. That's her. Okay, Domino's specifically, she loves that one. So she might love pizza, but I know a lot of us, when we say that word love, we kind of use it out of context. We weaken the word when we use it when it comes to saying that I love certain things or certain foods, things like that. Another word that I think we overuse is the word I need, right? Like, oh, I need a drink of water right now. Well, you don't need it. You'd probably be okay for couple more hours if you didn't get it, but you need a drink of water. This is very nitpicky for me, but I just don't like it when we use, and I do it all the time. I can't say that I'm not guilty of this. I try not to, but like saying the words like, I'm starving right now. Like, come on, you're not starving. You look great. You got plenty of weight on your bones. Ain't nothing wrong with you. You're not starving. So, except for maybe, a couple people I worry about, but that's neither here nor there. But anyway, so I just, one of the words that I've noticed lately that's really getting me really worked up, and the reason I bring this whole rant here is because there's a word that's been showing up on all of our social media accounts that really bothers me, that I do not like that they use it, because it takes completely away the real meaning of the word. Can anybody guess of the word? Somebody said it. Follower. Oh yeah, I got, I only follow like 200 people on Instagram, but I have 1,400 followers. I'm so cool, I just don't understand, like, the idea of following somebody on it. I don't know, the word follow is so much more than just looking at someone's pictures all day. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, when Jim posts a picture, I see it, I'm following him. It doesn't work like that. We've weakened the word follow. In our purpose statement of this church is, I have decided to follow Jesus, no turning back. And when I see the word follow used like that, I think to myself, man, if people really understood what the word follow mean, they wouldn't use it for Instagram. They wouldn't use it for social media, because following something is something so much more than just grazing their life and seeing all the perfect moments. It's something so much deeper. When you follow someone or something, there's a commitment to it. And we lose it when we use it all the time in our society. Does anyone here enjoy reading a good Does anyone here enjoy reading a good philosophical thesis as a hobby? I know there's a few, and hey, I do it all the time, brother. Hey, there's a few of us in here. Hey, one of the first things you always do before you write a philosophy paper, before you go into the details of your discussion, the first thing you do is you always what? You define the terms. What words am I going to use, and what do those words mean? So I'm going to define some terms for you as we continue. First off, the word follower. When I say the word follower in this message, I'm talking about this: an adherent or devotee of a particular person, cause, or activity. That is just the definition of follower. I looked it up. It was not original to me. It's one of those websites, probably dictionary.com. But we all get this idea, right? When Jesus comes to us, when he comes to the disciples in the Bible, he says, hey, listen, come and follow me, and I will make you fishers of men, right? That charge to follow Jesus is something that's so cataclysmic, something that is so life-changing, yet we just read it and say follow because we see it in our society and it doesn't mean much. Oh, follow Jesus. Oh, okay, he's got an Instagram page. Let me just go like it and make sure that I follow every time he posts a picture. No, there's something deeper than that. A follower is a commitment. And just so you guys know, for Jesus to do something like this, come up to complete strangers, hey, come follow me, it's not that crazy. You got to remember, within the Christian world, within the times of the Bible, there was a lot of Hellenistic culture going on, because before the Romans came into power, it was who? The Greeks. And anybody knows anything about the Greeks, they love their philosophy. Literally, the word philosophy is two Greek words put together: philos, which means love, like brotherly love. Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. Philos, and then Sophie, which is the word for wisdom. So it's literally the love of wisdom. So we see these Greek philosophers, right, like Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. They dedicated their lives to the searching of knowledge. And so what would happen is these people are like, man, these people are good. I want to follow them. I want to leave everything that I have, my friends, my family, my stuff, and I just want to go tutor. And I want them to be my tutor. I want to go under them. I want to follow them. And so when Jesus comes up to these fishermen and says, hey, listen, come follow me, this is something that's very normal to the culture. It's like, oh, you're not asking anything outlandish here. It's a very normal thing to be asked. And so they fortunately say yes, and they drop their nets, right? They drop that which was their security, the thing which kept them warm at night, the things which put food in their mouths, and they said, okay, I'm going to follow Jesus. I mean, and think about the paths of thought, right? So these people would literally spend time creating paths of thought on how or why we live the way that we live, right? And as I mentioned earlier, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, did you know that each of them were a student of the other? So Socrates is at the top, and then Socrates' student was Plato, and then Plato's student was Aristotle. They were all connected. They all said, hey, listen, I'm going to follow this guy. And this was the big three way before Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, and Kevin Garnett ever went to Boston Celtics. You know what I'm saying? So these guys were huge. They literally laid the foundation for Western philosophy and science. These guys are huge. And so when we say, I have decided to follow Jesus, no turning back, this is game changer. This is world changing. This isn't something so small as to say, okay, I'm looking at all the pictures that you've posted in the past month. That's not what it's about. As somebody gets a notification, that was perfect. So as we said, these people dedicated their lives. To figuring out why they lived the way they lived. And to kind of give you guys an example of philosophy, because philosophy is kind of hard for me. It's kind of hard to grasp unless you get a good example. I'm going to give you guys an example. Is that okay? It's going to be a little fun, little teaching lesson. So here's an example of philosophy. My philosophy for the church, that's what I'm going to state to you and see if you agree with it. The church's main function, its main motive, is to take care of already believing Christians. Now, there's other people who would say, wait, Will. I think the church's main function is for the unbelievers, right? I mean, I use the quote all the time. The church is the only institution ever created for its non-members. And I do think there's a beautiful balance. But when I and Jim and all of us get together and we say, what is Decided Church going to look like? How is it going to function? How is it going to move? It's going to be determined by my philosophy. So I say, hey, listen, Will, because I believe the church is its main function, not its only function, its main function is for the already believing Christian. When I go to prepare a sermon, I look at building up already Christians instead of when you go to another church, kind of like Elevation, which they don't do anything wrong. New Spring Church, they don't do anything wrong, but their philosophy is that the church is made for unbelievers. And so they share the gospel a lot. They keep it a little shallower. Yeah, you keep it a little shallower, and they just preach the gospel because they see the church's main function for unbelievers, and that's perfectly fine. Neither is wrong, neither is right. It's a body. We all work together. But do you see how our philosophy, what we think about something, how it functions, is what makes it what it does, correct? You guys understand that? Does that help? So that's just an example. I have decided to follow Jesus, no turning back. Did you know that specific statement, though it sounds so simple, is the truest call to discipleship? When I'm following Jesus, I want you guys to realize how loaded the word follow is. It is a call to discipleship. And so today, I was getting ready for this sermon, and I had a conglomerate of thoughts. And I was like, I just want to put all these thoughts together. So that's what I did. I have 6 truths. 6 truths, 6 of them. I don't normally do 6. That's a lot for me, because you know I like to talk a long time. 6 truths that are pertinent, that are necessary for your following Jesus. 6 truths that are pertinent to your following. And like I said, they're very abstract. They don't really go together. That's what conglomerate means, like a bunch of stuff you just put together because you can. So the first truth in following Jesus is knowing this: your destination is your death. Your destination is your death. If you want to go to Luke 9:23, I want you to read this verse with me. Luke 9:23 says this, and then he, being Jesus, said to them all, the disciples and the people following, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross daily and follow me. First of all, I want to point out, this passage has a little bit of interpretation to it. If you read the Greek, it says, if anybody should come after me, that means in my pursuit of Christ, because he's going to be walking away because he's got things to do. If you want to follow me, if you want to pursue me as I've pursued you, right? Before our salvation, Christ does most of the pursuing. He's coming after you, right? He's anywhere you can hide, he hits you. Anywhere you go, he's there. His love reaches everywhere, but sooner or later, it's got to be reciprocal. Sooner or later, says Jesus, okay. Jesus says, listen, I've done my part. I've pursued you to the point of salvation. Now come back and give it and come pursue me. And he says, if anybody would come after me, of course, they interpret it and says, if anybody wants to be my disciple, that's a loaded word there. If anybody were to pursue me, he must what? Deny themselves and take up their cross daily and follow me. Did you know, as a Christian, Jim used this point a long time ago. I don't remember when it was, but I loved it, so I used it again. Every morning, you should conduct a funeral. A funeral of your will, a funeral of what you want done. Every morning, I should wake up and say, okay, God, help me die to myself. And be careful, that's a very, very dangerous prayer, because you better believe God's going to give you a lot of good, applicable ways to die to yourself, especially in traffic. You're going to have a long, you better leave early. 30 minutes early for work than you normally do, because there's going to be a lot of traffic if you pray that prayer. And what I love about this idea of following Jesus and the fact that your destination is your death is it's an exact opposition of what this culture's philosophy, which would be Epicureanism. Well, not necessarily Epicureanism, because Epicurean probably wouldn't agree with some of the things we do. Let's just say hedonism for a sense. I know I'm getting really lofty here, but I love this stuff, so I'm going to talk to you about it. Hedonism is the idea of whatever feels good, whatever makes you feel good, do it. So hey, sex feels pretty good. Let's do it. Oh, getting wasted drunk is a lot of fun. Let's do it. Whatever brings you pleasure, that which brings you pleasure, you should do it. And then those things that bring pain, those things that bring harm, those things that hurt, don't do those. Stay far away from them. And as we've already learned in past sermons, that's the exact opposite of what discipleship is. Discipleship is placing yourself in a place of pain, in a place of hurt, in a place of self-denial. It's a place where you have to position yourself in a place where you die to all your desires. And he says, and listen, that's a prerequisite. You can't follow unless you get that part down. A lot of us, we don't even make it past the first thing, deny themselves. We can't even do that. We can't deny ourselves. Whatever we want, we get. We want to try and follow, but keep ourselves alive. It doesn't work like that. And the Holy Spirit brought this up to my mind just now, and me and Amber was talking about it. She told me this quote this week, and I loved it. And I'm going to share it, and I'm going to try and fit it in here. It probably doesn't fit, but it says, hey, listen, Satan never asked you to believe in him. He asked you to believe in yourself. So many, I see it all over the place, all over Facebook. I believe in myself, blah, blah. If only you understood the fact that discipleship is the exact opposite. Discipleship is saying, I don't even believe in myself. I don't have anything to give. I'm literally, you don't need me. The whole point of that song that was just sung, I'm living in awe because you don't need me, you want me. And if anybody can say, that's my song, Drake would know. He's my brother. He's grew up with me. He's probably like, I can't believe he's here on this stage preaching to people. And they actually listen. Wow. But the idea is there. It's like, even that thought of believing in yourself is, you have to die to that. You can't believe in yourself. God doesn't help those who help themselves. He helps those who realize they can't help themselves at all. It's an emptying of self, not a feeling, not feeling better about yourself. It's not positive self-talk. That's garbage too. Well, not all of it. I'll take that one back. I'm sorry. I let it go. Shouldn't have said it. There is some good things about positive self-talk, so don't take me there. But we can't let that get to our heads. It's got to be a good balance, okay? Just make sure you don't believe in yourself, because I don't like that. I don't like that saying at all. Anyway. I got a story to tell you. Man, I'm already at that time. Okay, so growing up, I went to a youth group, and I don't remember anything about this youth group except for this one sermon. This one. I don't even think it was a sermon. I think it was the ending part of the sermon. I was given a piggy bank as the thing. I should have gave everyone a piggy bank, but I remember this story, and it says, on the piggy bank, the question was written, are you a pig or are you a chicken? And of course, we're some youth groups, so the story was like, this pig and this chicken hear about a local church doing a breakfast to raise money for a mission trip. So the pig and the chicken start talking, what can we do to help with this breakfast? I know pigs and chickens don't talk, but just bear with me, okay? And chicken's like, well, I have a good idea. I can give them eggs and you can give them bacon. And the pig looks at the chicken. He's like, well, that's easy for you to say because all you got to do is give it an egg and I have to die. And as silly as a point that is, it's such a great illustration is because so many people say, God, you can have my egg. You can't have my life. The Christian church has become just a chicken coop of a bunch of people who aren't willing to give it all. They're laying a bunch of eggs and they're putting it on the paychecks. That's what I mean by that. Just give money to the church, but it doesn't do anything for them. I don't care how much money you give. It doesn't save your soul. So are you a pig? Are you a pig or are you a chicken? This is the only time you can ever call me a pig, okay? I'm a pig. Oink, oink. That's the only time anybody should ever call anyone else a pig, by the way. Are you a pig or are you a chicken? I love that story. The Christian church is often filled with an audience to entertain instead of an army ready to march. The Christian church is often filled with an audience to entertain when it should be filled with an army ready to march. That's my first point. Point number 2, I got to speed it up. This one's my favorite point. I want to let you know I put this point in specifically for myself. So point number 1, your destination is your death. That's huge. Point number 2, get used to the taste of your shoe. Get used to the taste of your shoe. And what I meant by that is that you're going to find a lot of situations in discipleship, in moments in time, where you're going to have to put your foot in your mouth. And you might as well just get used to the taste, because it's going to happen a lot. I have a story. It's not up here, but I'm going to tell you a story of two of my favorite people in the Bible, David and Nathan. We all know King David. Well, he had a prophet at the same time as him, and it was his best friend. They were, he was the spiritual leader. He was the actual ruler, so they always worked together. And so David gets this aspiration, right? The Israel is in a state of prosperity. They're doing great, and so, he's feeling big and bold, and he's got this big, brand new palace to live in, and then he sees this little tabernacle that's made of like beat up wood that's been all across the desert for God to dwell in, and he feels super convicted. And he's like, man, I got to do something about this. So he gets a bright idea. He's like, I got it. I'm going to build a house for God, right? I'm going to build a temple. This is David. And so David goes to Nathan, and David's like, guess what, Nathan? He's like, what? What's up, man? These guys are best friends. And he's like, I'm going to build a temple for God. And so Nathan's like, dude, whatever you do, bro, God is surely with you. Like, just an encouraging guy, right? Just a really very nice guy. Well, guess what happens? That night, God goes to Nathan, and he says, surely David will not build a house for me, but his son will. And so Nathan has to go back to his buddy, has to go back to David and be like, bro, I'm here to put my foot in my mouth. I don't think, you can't do it. You're not supposed to. It's just not supposed to be you. And so that's a good example of putting your foot in the mouth. And the reason I bring that up is because in my own personal story, I have a real-life example. Let's call this man Jonathan. I'm just going to give him a name because I'm really bad at actually saying names, so I put a name in here, Jonathan. I have a friend named Jonathan, and he's struggling with his marriage, and he's really trying to pursue his wife. And so I'm there, I'm loving him, I'm like, yeah, do it, man. Well, his wife is just being so rude. She's not a believer. He'd just come to know Christ, and and long story short, after a while, he's really recovering. He's finally being able to break free from her. The divorce is going to happen. Where he's finally dealing with that grief. And then a girl walks into his life, and he's like, "Dude, there's this girl, and I know this girl is godly. She's great. I love her." And I'm like, "Yeah, man, do whatever you please. Whatever the Lord is with you. I got you, bro. Like, I'll pray for you on that." Well, what happens is that God visits me in the night, and He's like, "Will, you gotta take it back," and so I did. I was like, "Hey, bro, I just want to let you know I don't think this is a good idea." And he's like, "Well, I thought you told me yesterday it was fine." I was like, "I did. I'm trying to put my foot in my mouth. Just let me do it, man." And sadly, that led to his departure, and I haven't seen him since. So if you're being discipled and somebody supports you, and then the next day they come back and they don't support you, don't brush them off. Realize sometimes you will have to put your foot in your mouth, and so will the person with you. Okay? I just wanted to put that in there for me, because that hurts. I miss that guy. Every day I pray for him. Anyway. Your destination is your death. Get used to the taste of your shoe. Number 3, embrace the tension. Embrace it. Okay, let's go to Proverbs 27:17. By the way, this is my favorite proverb probably. As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. Did you know when you take discipleship on, you pick a partner that has your back, sooner rather than later, you will butt heads. There's going to be times if you say, "Will, I want to be your side guy. I want to hang out with you." You're gonna just know that you and we are not gonna get along sometimes. Probably because I'm a butthead. But we're just not gonna get along. Things are not gonna go smooth. But guess what? It's a part of the process. This is the issue with Christianity. We're so shallow as a church because every time we have an issue with a brother, they bring it up and we just leave a church and go to another one. And we all just stuck in this stupid spiritual state of stubbornness. And we never grow. And the whole point is that that's a part of the process. God says, you had issues because I wanted you to work them out and not leave. But you just keep leaving. I preach this point as many and often as I can. Listen, I'm going to step on your toes. You're going to step on mine if you stay around me long enough. But guess what? I'm willing to sharpen. Are you? Find somebody who's willing to embrace the tension. Who cares if you don't like each other for a little bit? Let me tell you, every time I get a workout partner, I end up not liking them. I have a workout partner right now who I loved before I worked out with him. Now I'm like, I can't stand this guy right now. Why don't I enjoy it? And it's not because he's not a great person or that he changed. It's just because we're together so often, there's tension. And I'm like, oh, God is growing me. Okay, good. Because it's probably mostly selfish, the reason I don't like him, let's be honest. So embrace the tension. And do you know how iron sharpens iron? Anybody know the process way back in the day during the Bible times? They would take whatever, like an iron rod, they would stick it in coals of a furnace. They let it heat up. Very, 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 very hot. So hot that it's glowing orange. They would take the mallet and they'd slam it. Just keep slamming. They'd put it on an anvil and they'd slam it until it got to the point where it was flat and sharp. Guess what? As iron sharpens iron, one person sharpens another. That crap is going to hurt. It's not going to feel good. You're not going to want to do it. You're going to say, I hate this guy. I don't want to do anything with him. But guess what? God is using that person. You guys are discipling each other, whether you believe it or not, and you're meant to be together. Sorry, not sorry. As iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. And you know what I love about it is even though it sucks and it's painful and I don't want to do it, and guess what? Sometimes things get worse before they get better because you got to be thrown into the fire. It causes a closer bond between the two of you, right? And this is kind of like how you treat your brothers or your sister. Anybody have any brothers or sisters? I have a ton of them. I have a plethora. If you need one, you can have one, okay? But anybody who's had a brother, older or younger, can attest when you're growing up, you can hate each other, right? At some points in times, you're just like literally at full brood, just about to squeeze them. Let me just take your head off, right? I know there's been a few times with me and Dre that's happened, but guess what? If we were to just get in a fight, right? Me and my brother just got in a fight. We get on the bus, and I saw somebody hitting my brother. You best believe. It didn't matter what happened when it was back at home. You touch my brother, you mess with me. And I'm going to take care of him because he's my bro. If anybody's going to beat him up, it's going to be me. No one else. But you see that. See, that's the thing about brotherhood and sisterhood is that we can't get away from each other. We can't choose to leave churches. We can't choose to separate because we're stuck together. And guess what? Even though you guys hated each other just a second ago, as soon as you saw them at the plate against an enemy, guess what? You took stand and you said, hey, that's my brother. Don't pick on him. You pick on him, you pick on me. And that's exactly how discipleship works. Pick somebody who will be there to have your back. Somebody who's ready to have those brother fights. It's going to hurt. Sister fights. Those are probably not any more prettier. So 3, embrace the tension. That's important. Number 4, trust the process. Trust the process. Sometimes I feel like with discipleship, we force a square peg into a round hole. You know what I'm saying? Like there's something there. The discipleship is so organic, and it can't be manipulated. And it's the thing about discipleship is that it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. You know, it's a marriage. It's not a one-night stand. It's something that takes time. And I know this is me, man. I'm ready to see results. I'm a results guy. Teach this guy Bible lesson, results. Learn it, be it, move it, do it, everything. Copy it. You know what I'm saying? Like, just hurry up and do it. But I got to realize that, discipleship is a process. You got to trust it and know that it's going to take time and it's going to be painful and it's going to test my patience. But you got to trust the process. Also, underneath here, I put different types of discipleship because in different seasons, you're going to have different types. For instance, for me, something that happens in your life is you'll find people who are above you, right? Like somebody I would consider above me is my professor, Dr. Powell. You know, I come to him for any kind of question. I really only come to him just to hang out with him, and then he ends up just pouring into me, right? He's so overflowing. It's just like, whoo, yeah, this is good. I'll take it. Dude, he's an old man. He's like 70. I guess he's not that old, but he talks like an old man. Hey, y'all already know that grandpa who tells the same story every time you see him? He does that with about 60 stories. So sometimes I'll say, Dr. Powell, I don't remember this story about, and I totally remember it. But I'm like, tell me again. Just to let him tell me because he loves to do it. You can just see how much pleasure he gets in telling me the story over. And he's like, I know I've already told you. Like, Doc, don't focus on that. Just tell me the story now. And so I meet with this guy, and he just pours into me. So you have those, right? There's going to be times in your life where you need somebody to really intentionally disciple you, to pour into you. Then there's going to be times in your life where you're co-discipling each other. So this is like me. I don't know. I think Jim is a very good mix of both for me. I'm not a very good leader, but Jim has really taught me how to lead. So Jim has definitely been the one to pour into me a lot, but I think me and Jim now, more than less, are kind of co-discipling each other. I also have a good friend named Tyson. Does anybody remember Tyson? Yeah, he was. He and I. There was neither of us who was above the other, but we're at the kind of the same spiritual level, and we both want what God wants. And so you find yourself learning from each other. You find yourself growing together and from each other. And no one's really higher than the other. It's never established. It's never clear cut. But you can definitely tell being around this person helps you. It helps you mold into being more like Jesus. And that's the thing about discipleship, is that you should be intentional about it, but it will happen no matter what. Discipleship always happens no matter what, whether you're being intentional. It obviously can do better if you're intentional about it. But sometimes it's happening even when you don't know. So there's just two types of discipleship I thought I'd point out. At least that's how it's happened in my life, right? The name of this sermon is Life Lessons with Will. I'm just talking about my life here. All right, point number 5. You affect the effect. You affect the effect. And what I mean by this is that discipleship is only as effective as you allow it to be. You control how effective discipleship is in your own life. This is where I wanted to talk about transparency with a brother or a sister. Transparency is a must if God is going to bring about His will in your life. And listen, like, if a brother comes to you and who's your disciple person, and you're like, hey, like maybe there's a little issue here, and you get super defensive and angry and mean, he's probably not going to come and do that again. He's not going to try and prod you and make you a better person because you were super defensive. You got to let your guard down a little. Got to, like that hurt. It does hurt. But guess what? The truth hurt only when it ought to. That's exactly what that person is doing. He's just bringing to light something in your life that was darkened. And so if anybody's ever woken up in the morning and you open the blinds and the light's like, oh gosh, it's so bright, right? Everybody has done that, right? It's the same way. The light is offensive to you. It's offensive. And so you have to be able to let your guard down and be transparent and say, okay, you're right. I'm sorry. Listen, if you want to ask me what's the one word that your disciple should say the most, I'm sorry. I don't care if he makes a lot of bad decisions. I mean, I do care. It's obviously, I'm not telling you to be disciples of anyone, but if he can humble himself enough to say, I'm sorry, you got a good guy or a good girl. Okay? This is a great example by David and Nathan again. David goes and sleeps with a woman. Everybody knows this story off the top of the roof. He knows what he was doing up there. Everybody went and bathed at night because their water was warm from the sun all day. So he went up there looking for something to look at, and he found it, and he said, ooh, I want it, and he grabbed it. She came in. They did their thing, right? And then he got her pregnant. Oh, man, but and then he kills the husband of the woman, so he never finds out. And this is a bad deal. David's a bad dude. Sometimes I look at life, David, and said, I'm doing okay in life. But anyway, and then there's this story of where God goes to Nathan and tells him what happens. And so Nathan goes to David. I'm going to read this passage with you, and I'm going to show you something. The Lord sent Nathan to David after all this had happened, and when he came to him, he said, there were two. What I love about it is he uses a story to do this. He says, there were 2 men in a certain town, one rich and the other poor. The rich man had a very large number of sheep and cattle, but the poor man had nothing except one little ewe lamb. Is that how you say it, ewe? Ewe. Thanks, guys. Ewe. One little ewe lamb he had bought. He raised it, and it grew up with him and his children. Dude, this guy is a kid. It's a kid of the family. It shared his food, drank from his cup. That's gross. And even slept in his arms. It was like a daughter to him. Now a traveler came to the rich man, but the rich man refrained to take any of his own sheep or cattle to prepare a meal for the traveler who had come. Instead, he took the lamb, right? Ewe lamb? Okay. That belonged to the poor man and prepared it for the one who had come to him. Next slide. David, at the sight of this crazy story, he burns with anger against the man and said to Nathan, "As surely as the Lord lives, the man who did this must die. He must pay for that lamb 4 times over because he did such a thing and had no pity." Then Nathan said to David, "You are the man. You are the man. You did that by taking someone else's wife. You had all the wives. You had all the stuff. You took someone else's wife and then you killed them." He didn't say that, but I'm just exaggerating it. And then what I love is David's response. What I love is David could have got defensive. He could have said, "Nathan, out of my presence." He was the king. He could have done that. He could have not taken this rebuke. But guess what? He knew that he affected the effectiveness of this discipleship moment. And so what did he say? And then David said to Nathan, "I have sinned against the Lord." AKA, I'm sorry. You affect the effect of discipleship. You got to be transparent. You got to be honest, not only with yourself, but with your partner in anti-crime. That's what I call it because, I don't want you guys to do crime together. So you affect the effect. All right, last point, number 6. We're here. We're at the end of the tunnel. There's no light still, but we're there. All right. Number 6, throw out the cookie cutter. Throw out the cookie cutter. I said a statement, I've heard a statement that I like and I adopt and I say yes to, but sometimes it kind of comes off. The statement is I want to be a church that makes disciples, that makes disciples, that makes disciples, right? And I love it. Oh, yes and amen, 1,000-fold. But sometimes that idea of multiplication sort of implies that we all look the same, we all talk the same, we all answer the questions the same, we act the same, and that's not is what is meant here. So I'm not here to make you just like me, though you'd probably be cooler. But I'm not here to do that. I was with Jim, I think, the other day, and I was like, man, if all the Christians in Decided Church were like Karen, if all the Christians in Decided Church were like Karen, man, that'd be a good church. We were doing something right. We said that. You remember that, Jim? Did we talk about that? I was like, man, I'm okay with people coming out like Karen. And then I thought to myself, well, man, I wouldn't mind if people came out like Amber. I mean, Amber's pretty great. And I'm going through this list, and I don't mean to not call anyone's name. I'm not trying to say no one else is great. But what I noticed is that I was like, there was these certain people I was thinking in my head, and I was like, well, I mean, obviously there's not one specific, thing that I like within each one person. But what I realized is that there was a common theme in the life of Karen and the life of Amber, and that's they embraced who God made them to be. They figured out, this is how God wired me, and this is the way I'm meant to function. They love well. They obey radically. And what I've come to notice in discipleship and what God's really been teaching me is that discipleship is not about information overload. It's about identity overhaul. Discipleship is not about information overload, but about identity overhaul. See, once we can position ourselves in a place where we begin to listen about what the Word of God says about us instead of our own voices and the others, then we can really, truly see multiplication happen. Information doesn't attract, but people who are alive do. And then I look at my church and I'm like, man, we have some very alive people. God is in this place. And guess what? This idea of accepting who God made you to be, embracing, not just accepting, but embracing it and growing it and being who you're meant to be and loving well and obeying radically is always easier done with someone beside you. You can't do it alone. I have found this quote, and I just want to throw it in here because I liked it. It's a guy named Neil Cole. I've never heard of him. So I don't recommend reading any of his stuff because I don't know. But this quote was good, so maybe the book this quote came from I might like. It says this: ultimately, each church will be evaluated by only one thing: its disciples. Your church is only as good as its disciples. It doesn't matter how good your praise is. It doesn't matter how good your preaching is. It doesn't matter how good your programs are. It doesn't matter how much property you own. If your disciples are passive, needy, consumerist, and not moving in the direction of radical obedience, your church is not good. Your church is not good. So to go over my points again, just to kind of wrap your head around them. Point number 1, your destination is your death. Point number 2, get used to the taste of your shoe. Isn't that your favorite? That's my favorite. That was totally me. I don't know why I put it number 2. I should put it number 1. Next time I preach this message. Point number 3, embrace the tension. Embrace it. 4, trust the process. Be like Joel Embiid. 5, you affect the effect of discipleship. And 6, throw out the cookie cutter. So in conclusion, I just want us to go back to where we started and get back to the word following. I think I'm speaking to 2 people here in this room, and if you want, you can bow your head and close your eyes and just, think. I want this to be a time of meditation, a time of reflection. I think the most reason we hold back from following is because of commitment. It takes everything. It takes a lot of things. And the 2 people I'm talking to specifically today, the first one is that for some of us, we don't even know who Jesus is or what to do with him. Perhaps you've seen him as a good moral teacher or a great example to imitate. But to follow him as if he's still living and real? To those thinking this, I implore you, accept Christ today. Come to terms with the fact that the God of the universe, the creator of all things, came down in the flesh, born of a virgin, so that he might live a sinless life and yet die a sinner's death, so that we could live a sinless future. An unblemished identity is there for us, a home in heaven. All it takes is if you would just have faith in the beautiful fact that Christ died in your rightful place. Second, I want to talk to those who have already made that decision, but perhaps you've just been laying a bunch of eggs. And today is the day you say, you know what? I want to be a hog. Following Jesus is a revamping of sorts, a complete shift in how you live and how you see. It affects how you interact with others, and it brings you to a point of honesty with the mess that is my life. There's no more hiding bones in our closets. Christ brings everything to light and makes us deal with it. Your destination is your death, and you don't like the sound of that. But not only that, but committing to Jesus means committing to a people, to a church. Does that mean I can't sleep in on Sundays anymore? I'm not talking about Sundays. I'm talking about the people. As we sing this last song, I just want us to be able to think about who we want to make this commitment with. Perhaps it's somebody you've never talked to before. Ask God for spiritual sight to see who would be. But in order for you to build your life on this new foundation of discipleship and Christ being the center of your life, you're going to need a friend. You're going to need somebody to do it with you. So as we sing this last song and as I close out in prayer, I just pray that you would reflect on that and ask God to reveal in your heart whether you've been a chicken your whole life and all you've been is just afraid of every sound that's been around you. All you do is peck at the ground all day. God's calling you to be a hog. He's calling you to give it all. Father, I want to thank you for the fact that you are so worthy to be followed. The reason we don't follow well is because we don't see the worth or the value of you and the fact that you have come to save our souls. You could have left us. You didn't need us for your praise. You didn't need us for your glory, but you wanted us all the more. And so, God, you sent your son, Jesus, to come and die in our place. And so, Father, we thank you for that. And from that act alone, you are worthy of every song we sing. You are worthy of every step. You are worthy to be followed for the rest of our lives. So God, I pray that you'd help us really live out this purpose statement of Decided Church, to follow Jesus, no turning back. Totally committed. And Father, I want to thank you for how vibrant and beautiful the people of this church are, for how you're working in their lives in spite of me being a pastor here. And Jim, I mean, come on. You could have picked way better people, but you didn't. And I'm so glad that I get to witness this miracle. This is a literal miracle happening every single day in the hearts of those in this room. And God, I just pray that you would continually bring it to fruition, God, and that you would help those in this room who are looking for a partner, who are looking for a friend to come alongside, who are looking for a mentor, who are looking for a co-discipler, who just want to grow together. Two people who have a common purpose to love Jesus more, to be more like him, to know him and to make him known. Father, I pray that you would do that in the name of Jesus. Amen. Hey guys, thank you so much for joining us. We hope that the message not only encourage you, but help reshape your view on what true discipleship is. If you like what you heard, please follow us on our YouTube channel for weekly updates. Have a great week.